What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, here goes my final fight prediction for this highly anticipated showdown between undefeated three-division world champion, WBO welterweight world champion, and widely considered the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Terence Bud Crawford, as he defends his title against former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, Special K, Kell Brook. I'm seeing a lot of people starting now to lean towards Kell Brook after what they saw on the scales. Today, they held their respective weigh-ins as Terence Crawford weighed in at 146.6 and Kell Brook weighed in at 147 on the dot. If you don't know, the welterweight limit is 147. With that said, this is the biggest challenge in Terence Crawford's career. The biggest fight before this fight with Kell Brook, on paper, namesake-wise, was Yuriorkis Gamboa. Or some may say it's Victor Postol. Some may say it was the fight with Julius Indongo for undisputed at junior welterweight. Some may say it's Jeff Horn as he made his debut at the welterweight division. And Jeff Horn was coming off a beaten 8th division world champion, legendary, iconic, superstar boxer, WBA welterweight world champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. I, for one, didn't think that Jeff Horn won the fight. But what I think is not that important, obviously, because what's most important is the three judges that are singing ringside, and they saw it in the favor of Jeff Horn. With that said, Terence Crawford has admittedly stated that he hasn't had that legacy name, the pound-for-pound fighter, on his resume, and he's seeking that. So with that said, Terence Crawford, his first opportunity is coming tomorrow night against Special K, Kell Brook. By the time you guys see this, it will be Saturday, right? In New York, at least. Kell Brook is a very, very special fighter. Pun intended, his name, Special K, Kell Brook. He's very skillful. He has a beautiful jab. He's very big for the welterweight division, some may say. I say he's a natural welterweight because when you see him up against 154-pounders as he campaigned there since his loss in 2017 to now unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Earl the True Spence Jr., which took place in May of 2017, and he was stopped in that fight. I believe it was the 11th round, which saw Errol Spence break his other orbital bone, and he hasn't campaigned at the welterweight 147-pound limit since then. But when you see him up against 54-pounders, doesn't look like he could compete with them, right? Size-wise. He wins those fights, but just size-wise, he just looks smaller than them. So I think he's a natural welterweight. I think the junior middleweight division guys are natural middleweights and so on and so forth. You get the picture, right? And so Kell Brook is very technically sound in the ring. He's skilled. He has a beautiful jab, and he's very strong. Kell Brook is going to face the unknown in this fight, in which he's never been in the ring with a guy that's versatile as Terence Bud Crawford is, skillful as Terence Bud Crawford is, and as athletic with the boxing ability of Terence Bud Crawford. Now, he has been in there one guy, well, should I say two guys that were athletically gifted like Terence Crawford, but they didn't use it in the manner that Terence Crawford, I believe, is going to display tomorrow night. That being Errol Spence, and he beat two-time welterweight world champion Showtime Sean Porter. But Sean Porter decided to be very aggressive the entire fight, which allowed Kell Brook to use his size, his strength, nullify Sean Porter's relentless pressure and physical and mental pressure that he puts on his opponents. And he was catching and countering Sean Porter as he was coming in because he's very, very strong. And he has a very, very good jab. So Sean Porter played into Kell Brook's hands. Errol Spence, to a degree, was playing into Kell Brook's hands as The fight was close. It was a seesaw battle fight. But Errol Spence chose not to use his athletic ability and just press forward, be aggressive, and look to break Kell Brook down, as he eventually did. Similar to what Gennady Golovkin did to Kell Brook, when Kell Brook dared to be great, jump up 2 weight classes and channels, then the unified middleweight, pound-for-pound fighter, and was knocking out every opponent he was facing in Gennady Triple G Golovkin. He was having success in that fight. Similar to him having success against Errol Spence. Because Kell Brook does very good with guys that come forward. Because he's naturally strong, he's big, and he's skilled. So he can stand his ground when you are aggressive. Now, what Kell Brook has not displayed was quick feet. He hadn't displayed the ability to utilize quick feet or to cut off the ring against a guy who is a natural pure boxer like Terence Crawford, who can utilize the ring with educated footwork, not just utilizing unnecessary footwork, but educated footwork. And that's what Terence Crawford can do. He can use educated footwork. Terence Crawford is a beautiful, pure boxer. Terence Crawford also can switch from southpaw to orthodox. So Terence Crawford can use different angles. Terence Crawford is very sharp with his punches. Terence Crawford is very accurate with his punches. Terence Crawford, 9 times out of 10, doesn't waste punches. Now, at times when Terence Crawford gets excited and he wants to be a dog and fight on the inside, then at times you can see his punches get a little wild and, looping. But that's when he gets seriously aggressive. But Terence Crawford, 9 times out of 10, he's educated in his approach. He understands his opponent. And I think that a lot of people are looking at his last couple of fights against Igis Kavaluskas, Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez, Amir Khan, and they're thinking that Terence Crawford is going to use the same aggression and same approach as he did in those fights as he will with Kell Brook. And I beg to differ. I don't believe that's the version of Terence Crawford you're going to get. Although he can be lured into that fight. At times it just seems he can't help himself. But when he fought guys like Victor Postol, even when he fought Jose Benavidez, he was educated in his approach on working his way to the inside. He just didn't stand in the pocket and bang because he understood that they had size and strength. But when he fought a guy like Jeff Horn, and Jeff Horn's feet were slow, a la to Kell Brooks, who Jeff Horn is a big welterweight. Was a big welterweight that eventually he moved up and fought at middleweight. So there's similarities between Kell Brook and Jeff Horn. Now, don't get me wrong. Technically, Kell Brook has an advantage over Jeff Horn. Athletically, he has an advantage over Jeff Horn. But the approach is very similar. So his game plan, I believe Terence Crawford's game plan is going to look a lot like when he fought Jeff Horn, with a mixture of when he fought Jose Benavidez. But he's going to start out like when he fought Victor Postol, who was seen as a very skillful, technical, long, rangy boxer with power. And Terence Crawford had an educated approach. Victor Postol didn't have much foot speed. Kell Brook doesn't have much foot speed. Kell Brook can be very predictable at times. The difference here ultimately is this, is that we know what we're going to get with Kell Brook. That leopard is not going to change his stripes. Kell Brook, what you see in all of his fights is what you're going to get. You didn't see a different version of Kell Brook when he fought Gennady Golovkin, to when he fought Errol Spence, to when he fought Sean Porter, to when he fought Zarafia or Rabchenka when he moved up to 54. You see the same version of Kell Brook. He's not very versatile, but he can be very predictable. And that is going to be the difference in this fight, in my opinion, because I think that Terence Crawford is very versatile. And see, you don't know what you're going to get against Terence Crawford. We don't know what version of Terence Crawford is going to come in the ring. Are you going to get the Victor Post style Terence Crawford? Are you going to get the Yuriorkis Gamboa version of Terence Crawford? Are you going to get the Jeff Horn version of Terence Crawford? Are you going to get the Jose Benavidez version of Terence Crawford? Or are you going to get the dog that just wanted to exchange and fight on the inside against Kavaluskas in his last fight? So what version of Terence Crawford is going to show up? You see, that's where the game planning gets very, very difficult, because you don't know what version of Terence Crawford is going to show up. Is he going to fight orthodox the entire fight? Is he going to fight southpaw the entire fight? Is he going to mix it up? We don't know. But you do know what version of Kell Brook is going to come in the ring, because, again, that leopard doesn't change his stripes. He is who we know him to be, Kell Brook. You don't see different versions of Kell Brook. You don't see versatile versions of Kell Brook. You see Kell Brook, who is very technically skilled, who is very disciplined and sound, but is very predictable. And that is going to spell disaster for Kell Brook, because Terence Crawford has the ability to make adjustments on the fly, and Kell Brook does not have the ability to make the adjustments on the fly. Or should I say, he has not displayed the ability to make adjustments on the fly. And at 34 years old, having 2 major eye injuries, having a broken orbital bone in both eyes, having metal plates to reinforce them, you're not going to get a different version of Kell Brook. He's not suddenly going to be Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather, or moving around very active like Sean Porter. You're going to get the version that's going to be very aggressive, coming forward, staying behind his jab with a 1-2. And he's not the quickest fighter in the world. He's very strong, but he's not the quickest fighter in the world, which means that Terence Crawford is ultimately going to beat him to the punch. And because Terence Crawford is going to beat him to the punch, I believe Terence Crawford is going to have one of his eye injuries reoccur. And I believe ultimately that Terence Crawford will stop Kell Brook by the 9th or 10th round. I'm seemingly picking the 10th round. 10th round stoppage victory for Terence Bud Crawford in a fight that he understands is a showcase fight. This is his opportunity to fully and truly announce himself to the world as the best pound-for-pound fighter, and he must put on a dazzling performance. And best believe Terence Crawford understands what he's up against. He can't have a lackluster performance. Can't have a close fight with Kell Brook when the biggest fight in the sport of boxing is between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. And just 3.5 years ago, Errol Spence Jr. went to the UK where Kell Brook was a world champion in hostile environment, and he stopped Kell Brook in their fight and ultimately became a world champion for the first time. So his first time fighting for a world championship, that being Errol Spence, was in Kell Brook's backyard in the UK in a hostile environment when Kell Brook was a champion, and he stopped Kell Brook. Terence Crawford being a 3-division world champion, being undisputed at junior welterweight, he cannot have the opportunity. He's very experienced, unlike Errol Spence. And whether we like it or not, there's going to be comparisons. This is Terence Crawford, who's in a lose-lose situation ultimately, because if he looks great against Kell Brook, everybody's going to say he was supposed to. But if he looks bad against Kell Brook, they're going to say he was exposed. So it's best for Terence Crawford to look absolutely dazzling and get the W and deal with the rest later. So I'm expecting Terence Crawford to stop Kell Brook in the 10th round. That's all I got for y'all. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. That's all I got for y'all. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.